Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking all about attachment styles and PMDD. Welcome to PMDD, PMD, PME Awareness Month. April of 2023 is PMDD Awareness Month, and they have this every single year. And I am so excited to be an I Am PMDD champion, which is based off of IamPMD.org, which has so many amazing resources for PMDD partners. And I partnered with them to kind of bring awareness. And I did it last year, and I'm really honored to be able to do it this year because I really feel like the more that we bound together and get PMDD out there, the more people that are going to know about it, so that when you go to your medical professionals, when you go to your job, they're going to know what this disorder is and not just think it's something that you made up or it's just PMS. And I know that's very triggering for so many people to just not really understand and to live in a world that doesn't understand. When PMDD is 1 in 20 women, you would think that they would know it by now. And I remember when I was starting my dissertation, I was really thinking back to how many decades that PMDD has been here, and women have been suffering with this and almost suffering in silence because they're suffering in a way that other people aren't really understanding. So they're feeling like, maybe I am just crazy. Maybe I do just need to, pretend like I don't have this or just not talk about it. And I'm just so glad that we're in a time where we are talking about it. And my passion, obviously, is talking about PMDD partners and relationships. So I'm going to be doing that a lot this month, but I'm going to be starting this series here on my podcast, which is called Attached to PMDD. So this is my podcast mini series. I will be providing you with 2 offerings at the end of this that is really going to help you. If you found out that you're listening to this podcast and you know that this is something that you and your PMDD partner really struggle with, you know me, I'm always going to give you the tools that go along with the knowledge. But it's really about, when I first recognized that attachment styles were a thing in PMDD relationships was with my partner, where I was really struggling with. When I met my partner, I was in my follicular phase and I wanted him around all the time, and we were so in sync and we had so much fun together. And then as the months went on, I noticed that as soon as I would have my PMDD symptoms, I really didn't want to be around my PMDD partner. I didn't want him to touch me. And this really caused so many arguments with us because the intimacy was completely gone as soon as I went into PMDD. And this is why this episode is called Why Attachment Styles Matter. Because when I went into PMDD, I developed a avoidant attachment style. So what that meant is I wanted to completely be away from my PMDD partner. And what he developed was an anxious attachment style. So it was almost this push and pull. Like the more I went away from him, the more he wanted to lean in and be closer to me. And that was so triggering because I felt like he was starting to be needy and clingy. And I was very vocal about it when I got into PMDD rage because I felt like I was trying to hold it in for so long and just, navigate how anxious he was being and how needy and how much reassurance that he needed. And I thought I could do like the bare minimum and say, okay, I'm just gonna, reaffirm him and validate him. And just, whenever he says, I love you, I'll say, I love you back. And that should be it. Where it became a problem because he started to excessively what I call love bombing. And what that means is you're excessively telling your partner that you love them, that you care about them, that you adore them, and all of these things. And on the outside, it can sound really nice. But for me, it was so much pressure because I was almost feeling like he was pulling at me, like, what more do you want from me? And it made me want to pull away from being with him because I felt like I couldn't handle it. Whenever you go into PMDD and your partner brings you more stress, you immediately think I need to break up because I can't deal with the stress of PMDD and you. And so I kept telling him every single month, stop being clingy. And I was bringing it to his mind. I was calling him out on it, basically. I was calling him out on being clingy and needy, which made him want to be clingy and needy even more because he felt like he was losing me. Because when I got in my follicular days, he was almost acting the same in a sense that he was telling me that he loved me, that he cared about me. And instead of me pulling away from that and thinking that it was too much for me, I was leaning in and I was saying it right back to him and really meaning it and feeling so grateful that I had this partner that was like obsessed with me and loved me so much, that I had so much security with. And I found so much value in the validation that he was providing for me because I had had partners in the past where I really, wondered how they felt about me. And I always had to question certain things. And, I was in that gray area where I felt like maybe I loved them more than, they love me. And I just had all these questions. But with my partner, he's never put me in a position where I had to question how he felt about me. And that's one of the things that I admire about him. But when I got into PMDD, I just got so desensitized to it. It was kind of like, yeah. Like, I get it. You love me. Like, it was almost like, I remember telling him one time, oh my gosh, I told him to like get a hobby. Like, I felt like he was smothering me. And I was like, you put your focus on me so much. I don't want to be anybody's everything. Like, I began to think that, being in a relationship with my PMDD partner was so unhealthy. I was like, this is not healthy that someone is just so into you so much. Whereas when I was in my follicular phase, when I was in my good days, I was so grateful for it. So I'm like, what is this push and pull? And the reason why I noticed it, because I was writing in my journal and I had like this gratitude journal that I was doing. And when I was in my follicular days, I was so grateful for him. And when I was in my, PMDD days, I was so grateful I remember putting space. I literally said, I am grateful for space and time. And what I meant was space and time away from my PMDD partner. And I could not believe like that. Like, if I found that, when I was in my follicular days, when I really figured this out, I was like, if I saw this when I was in PMDD, that my partner just wanted nothing to do with me, I would be so hurt. And I remember, because I didn't have the brain fog, I didn't have the stress, I didn't have all this overwhelm going on because I was in my good days. And I find the best tools and the best clarity when I'm not in PMDD and I'm able to just reflect on what happened when I was in PMDD. And I remember just looking at, my journal and just seeing the words that I was saying. Like, I just want him to like give me some space and give me some time and not be all up on me and not be touching me and hugging me and kissing me all the time. And I was like, that's exactly what I loved though. Like, I was so confused because I was in my good days and I'm very affectionate. But I find that when I get into PMDD, I am not affectionate. I'm kind of like almost cold even. And it's kind of like we get up in the morning, and my partner's normally like, good morning, babe, and giving me a hug and a kiss. And when I'm in PMDD, I used to get up in the morning and immediately put my headphones on to where I couldn't even hear him. It was so rude. It was so rude. I'm like, oh my God, if someone treated me that way, I would be on somebody's bathroom floor, like crying. And the fact that my PMDD partner, he's very persistent. Like when he wants something and he's willing to put in the work to get it. So that's one thing I love about my PMDD partner is that he doesn't give up easily. But I found that PMDD will put you in that place where you feel like you might just give up. You know, it doesn't matter how strong you are, how persistent you are. I'll tell you the story that really brought it home to me. And I've talked about this a lot of times. I've talked about it on my episodes in regards to different things, but I'll explain it right now because it really explains why attachment styles matter when you're in PMDD. And that is when we were at the lake house. So if you listen to this podcast for a while, you know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to bring it home to why this really had to do with my attachment style. So my partner was graduating with his master's and we got an Airbnb at this lake house, and I went there and I knew that I was going to be in PMDD. I absolutely knew I'm going to be in PMDD, but I'm going to make the best of it. So I went and got a lake house because I know that my partner loved fishing. And I said, we're going to go there. We're going to have a good time as a family. But I really just wanted some time for myself. And I really, when I go into PMDD, I just want space and time for myself. And it's really hurtful for my partner because in his mind, going into this scenario, we were going to be spending all this time together. It was going to be amazing. And he had really high hopes. And I found that when I'm in PMDD, it seems like, and he doesn't know that I'm going to be in PMDD, his hopes are so high that it's almost like when he gets crushed, he falls harder because he had so much hope of what it could be. So when we went to the lake house, he was going under the impression of we're going to spend all this time together, like together, lots of quality time. We both were off work. It was for a full week. And I went into it wanting space and he went into it wanting quality time together. And so there were little instances where I could slowly see him going down, getting disappointed. But when I'm in PMDD, I don't have that much remorse, unfortunately. It's very strange to me how much I have a lack of empathy. Like I could see my partner suffering and it not really affect me that much. That's that avoidant attachment style. I'm not connected to you. So when I see you suffering, it's kind of like sucks to be you, but I don't feel any responsibility for making him feel better. When I'm in PMDD, I'm like, I remember telling him, suck it up. Like you need to figure it out. Like you're in charge of your own emotions. Like get it together. And it sounds horrible, but I really meant it in the moment. Like I was really like, I'm struggling over here. I don't have time to deal with your negative emotions. So like figure it out, use a tool, like read a book. Sounds horrible, right? This is not me in my follicular days. So I was in PMDD and we went there and he started to want, like, I picked the lake house because he liked the fish. And so he went out fishing to the dock and he said, come on, babe, come out to the dock with me. And I said, no, you go out to the dock. I have some work to do. So I was planning on creating some tools. It was ironic that I was really about to go out there and create some tools for PMDD Partners and I was ignoring mine. But I was like, oh, I got some work to do. And I remember seeing him at the screen door kind of stop in his tracks and like look back at me like, what? When my partner initially is triggered by something that I do, but he's trying not to go off, he does this weird thing of like looking at me and squinting his eyes like, and I know what he's thinking. He's like, did she just say what I think she said? And then he has to take like a moment and then he like walked off. And he's pretty much was alone with his thoughts. That's what I call it, because whenever I go into PMDD, he doesn't really know what's going on in my mind because I'm not really open about it. And he'll be like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good. And then so he's left to figure out what's wrong with me. And when he's alone with his thoughts, he starts to tell himself stories in his mind of what he thinks I'm thinking and what he thinks I'm feeling. And because his triggers are infidelity, based off of him being cheated on in the past, he immediately goes to that. And that's a trigger for me because I've never cheated on you. And I think it's the weirdest thing when I'm in PMDD that I'm having to explain my whereabouts, explain this, all these things, but I've never once cheated on you. And again, it goes into that avoidant attachment style. When I'm in my follicular days and my partner gets really clingy and needs reassurance, I'm all for giving him that reassurance. I'm all for, no, babe, like I'm here for you. I would never, cheat on you. Like all these things, I have no issue. But when I'm in my PMDD days, I'm like, what is your problem? Why do I have to suffer for your baggage? Like, it's not my fault you got cheated on. Like, and I get into this whole defensive mode. Like, you go do the work and like deal with your issues and don't put them off on me. Like, I'm over here dealing with my issues with my PMDD. You go deal with your issues. And it makes him feel even more insecure because he begins to think, where is my loving partner that normally reassures me? And if she's not reassuring me, if she's not connected to me, if she can talk to me like this, then who is she talking to? So like it was igniting his triggers because he was thinking, I think that when his ex cheated on him, she must have gotten avoidant or something because he starts to tell me like, when I got really vague with him, vague meaning I didn't really want to answer his questions, or he had said, oh, what did you do today? Like if we were apart, and I'd be like, oh, nothing. I was just chilling or something. Like I get really vague because I don't like the questioning. So I'm not trying to give you like the answer. So I'm kind of like, I was relaxing, whereas when I'm in my follicular phase, I'd be like, oh, I was relaxing. I did this. I watched this show. Like I was all about giving details. Well, part of having an anxious attachment style, which I'll get into on the next episode, is if you're vague and you're not giving details, you are triggering your PMDD partner because you're forcing them to think of everything that you're not telling them. And it's probably a lie and it's probably worst case scenario. And we'll get into that. It's catastrophizing. But anyway, so we were at the lake house and he kind of squinted at me. And when I told him I was just going to stay inside and we weren't going to go out to the dock together, and then he kind of was like shrugged it off and was like, okay, whatever. So he went out to the dock and I think he was kind of waiting it out, seeing if, if after some time I would come out there, but nope. I had literally put my comfy pants on. I put my fuzzy socks on. What that means is I'm about to lay up on this couch, on this sofa, on this bed, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I do that a lot when I go into PMDD because I feel so comforted by fluffy things. I don't know what it is, but it's just, I have a lot of sensitivity to sensory overload. So when certain things touch my skin, like sometimes it can make my skin crawl or things like that. So I find when I put on fluffy, warm things, it just makes me feel really good. And so if I'm doing that, I'm pretty much not going anywhere for 40 days and 40 nights. Like I'm staying here. You can offer me anything. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So when he saw that was another thing. He came inside to get some food and he saw that I had my comfy clothes on and he did the squinting thing again. And I know he's probably like, oh, heck no. Like because it was the start of the day. So it was kind of like even him giving me a little bit of time and space. I was basically proclaiming like, I'm not going anywhere. And so he began to feel so rejected, so unloved, because this had gone on day after day after day. We even went to his graduation and I was kind of like there, but not really there. Even when we went out to dinner, his friend had came. I was just not being a very good PMDD partner. Okay. Because I was not sharing in his excitement. But in my mind, I was like, well, I'm here. That's how I was in my avoidance state. It's like, what are you complaining about? I'm here. And it's like, but you're not really here. And the more he tried to pull more out of me, the more I was just like, oh my gosh, like so annoying. Like, what is your problem? Like, get a hold of yourself, man. It was just like, it was very, it's very mean. It's just very mean. And when so that happened the whole trip. And then what was the big dip was, he had gone days and days and days of not getting that attention. And I started to look out because I was, oh my God, I slept on the couch. That's how much I didn't want to be around him. I slept on the couch. And I remember waking up one morning and I thought he was going to go out to the dock to go fishing. and I couldn't find him. I'm like, he's not outside. Like, where's he at? And I went into the room and I literally saw him in the bed, curled up, crying. And I had not seen that level of pain and hurt and brokenness. And I literally was like, what are you, like, I was almost just staring at him for a minute because I couldn't believe it. And then I was looking at him and he was basically like, you won, you won. And I'm like, I won what? Like, what are you talking about? He was basically like, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, you broke me, or it broke me. And he kept saying through the tears, I'm not strong enough. It beat me. Like, and when he said it, I knew he meant PMDD. Like, in his mind, he goes against PMDD, like the fight of PMDD, like he's fighting it. And he just said, I can't. And even in seeing all that and being so shocked, because I was still in PMDD, I just was like, it's almost like I wanted to turn my emotions on. I wanted to go over there and hug him and go over there and lay with him and go over there and comfort him. But there was something inside of me that just couldn't. It was like there was this wall that was up that was like stopping me. And that was my avoidant attachment style. It was literally stopping me from comforting my partner when he was in the most broken place that I've ever seen him. And instead of going over to him, and I can't believe, like, to this day, we'll say like that's the worst PMDD round ever, because I literally turned around, left the room, closed the door, and went on a walk, because it was so overwhelming for me to see that. And instead of me comforting him and making him feel better, I literally was like, I need space. Because when I get into PMDD, I can be very selfish and self-absorbed, and I feel justified in that because I feel like, well, I'm suffering. So of course I'm going to be thinking about how I'm feeling, how to make myself feel better, like all of these things. Whereas my partner is very selfless. So me being selfish is like a slap in the face, because he's always doing everything with me in mind. And I'm always doing everything with me in mind when I'm in PMDD, because I'm in that avoidance state. So it's like me, my suffering, my things, my this, my that. Get on board with supporting me or not. Like, I'm going to be good, but I'm like dosing myself in self-care, like all of these things. And it hurt him so much because he knew that wasn't the core of who I was. I truly believe that if he thought that's who I was as a person, like the things that I was doing, that he would have been like, okay, I'm out. Like, I don't even want to like be with you because you're a horrible creature on this planet. But he knew that I was in this space only because I was in PMDD. And so we ended up leaving on the trip, and he was like, I'm going to have my friend pick me up. Like, I'm out. Like, I'm not riding back with you, because we had drove up there. It was like a 3-hour drive. And I was like, okay, like, have your friend come. Like nothing about losing him scared me. And that's how I know that I was in that avoidance state, because I didn't care if I lost him or not. And that's what I want you to understand, that when you're in PMDD and you have an avoidant attachment style, it's a dangerous place to be, because you can literally pack your partner's bags, walk them to the door, and you really not care anything about it. And I was just like, oh, well, like, it was a good run. You know, we had some good memories. Like, it's crazy to me, because when we took the drive back, and it was like silent. We were listening to podcasts and like random music and stuff. And he went and caught a plane back home because we were long distance at the time. And then 4 days later, my period came, and I saw like a movie. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, where you've looked back on what you've done in PMDD. And I was like, oh my goodness, Rose, you've gone too far. You did what? It's almost like hearing about it. Like, you did what? You said what? Like, I was looking at it with the lens of my good days and feeling grateful towards him. And I was like, how am I going to clean this up? Like, how am I going to get back to that good place, because it's almost like when I get into my good days, I need that reassurance that like, hey, like I didn't destroy everything in PMDD, did I? Like, and normally he's full on with like, no, I love you, blah, blah. And he's so reassuring. But this time I knew I went too far, because when I went to contact him, when my cycle came, and I was like, hey, babe. And he was like, what's up? And I was like, oh no. Like he's never talked to me like that. Never, 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 never. He had detached himself from me out of survival. And I think he knew that I was back to being myself, but that didn't even matter to him because of how bad I hurt him. So he was like, what's up? And I was like, how's this? And he's like, it's good. He was very short with me. Like I used to be short with him like 2 days before. So I didn't want to press it because I didn't feel like I had the right to. So I kind of had to wait it out. And it took us a long time to get over that. It took a lot of tools, a lot of work for him to open back up to me. And that was like the first time where I genuinely thought I was going to lose my PMDD partner. Other times I'm like, oh, that was a hard run. We recovered well and we're good. But that particular time, no, I was like, I've absolutely lost him. And what I mean by lost him is that I lost that part of him that was attached to me, because I don't think that he felt safe being attached to me because of how evil I could be when I got into PMDD. Hey, that rhymes. And I had that avoidant attachment style. So this is why attachment styles matter in your PMDD relationship, because if you don't recognize what your attachment style is and how to navigate it and have tools to use in those moments, you can hurt your PMDD partner like I did, to the point where they just completely detach from you and say, I don't want this relationship. And then if you don't have, the only reason that we got back on the same page was because I had to use tools specifically for attachment styles and PMDD. It wasn't something that I could just say to him, because I was saying all the things. I was just like, I love you. I want to be with you. None of that even mattered at that point, because the damage was done. And that was a dangerous place to be, because now that I was looking back at my follicular days, I'm like, you idiots. Like if you would have lost your PMDD partner over that, and then I started to see all of the value that I had in him and how I honestly believe my PMDD partner is my person. And that's what scared me when I didn't have those tools, because I'm like, if I lose this person, I don't believe that I could just, go out and find someone like him. Like I've dated enough for long enough, to know when I found someone that is really my person. And I hate that there's this glamorization, if that's even a word, about PMDD breakups, where it's just like, oh yeah, like it's all about your happiness and doing what it takes to make you feel good, and just completely disregarding how painful it is to feel like you're about to lose your person or to lose your person. Like, yeah, in the beginning, you feel like the ego is there. You're like, oh, I'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, if that is your person and you lost them because of PMDD and because of your attachment style and stuff, you're going to regret that. And you're going to have to live with that regret. And there's no meme, there's no quote that's going to cuddle you at night. Like, you're going to be missing some key things. And sometimes when you go into PMDD, you don't specifically see that. You only see that moment and how you're feeling in that moment. But if I would have lost my PMDD partner, my world would have been crushed. There's so many things that would have been affected from me not having my PMDD partner, my daughter, our children, our animals, like our careers, our plans for retirement, our finances, like everything would be affected. But it's almost like in that moment, you're just thinking about your emotions and your feelings, and you're in this avoidant or anxious space, and you're just like, I'll be fine. And the truth is, you actually won't. You're going to go through a lot of pain, and this can be avoided. And that's why my offering to you, if you know that you have issues with going into a different attachment style, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, either that's me being my partner, which is the anxious attachment style, or that's me, meaning I'm like you, Rose, like I get really avoidant. I want you to see how bad it can get, how far it can go, if you don't have tools. So I'm always giving you tools. So the first thing is my attached to PMDD book. You can go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, and get a copy of my book. This is going to outline you and your partner's attachment style when you go into PMDD and the tools that you can be able to use. And then also, I am offering the Attached to PMDD course. What this course is over the course of 2 months. So the first month, I'm really just getting to know you and your PMDD partner and your attachment styles, how it's affected when you're in PMDD, when you're not in PMDD. And then the next part is you're going to have modules that you're going to go through every single week with homework. So this is an in-depth course that's really going to help you with the tools that are customized to you and your PMDD partner for your attachment style. So you never get to the point that I got at and almost pretty much lost my PMDD partner because I couldn't manage my attachment style, his attachment style, and PMDD. So you can get that course on my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com. Also, if you have any questions about these two offerings, I am on Instagram every single day for about 2 to 3 hours a day talking to PMDD partners. So just DM me In Love with PMDD on Instagram. And I'll also provide my email because a lot of my private clients have it, but you're more than welcome to email me. It's rose@inlovewithpmdd.com. But I want to provide this for you because I don't want this to be something that you're really worried about. So it's okay. I want to tell you, even to this day, I have an avoidant attachment style when I go into PMDD. And so I'm not saying I'm curing what your attachment style is when you go into PMDD because it is really cyclic. I'm just going to give you the tools to manage it and navigate it so you don't break up with your PMDD partner, so you don't lose your PMDD partner, but most importantly, so you don't hurt them and do damage to your PMDD relationship. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.